The brave tortoise and ungrateful friends. In the deep jungle of the Hotopo forest, there lived a group of animals. They lived happily and were each other's keeper. The animals were deer, rabbit, fox, elephant, grasshopper, monkey, and pig. Others were rat, viper, camel, hyena, antelope, duck, and tortoise. The rest were parrot, giraffe, hippopotamus, lion, mouse, and wolf. They had a very large farm from which they got their foodstuffs to prepare their food every day. There was a river lying about 300 meters from the forest, and it served as their only source of water. The animals used water from the river for drinking, washing, cooking, and other needs. They also got fish from the river for their meals. Fetching water from the river was a task that was undertaken by all the animals. They were therefore divided into groups, and each group took turns to fetch water from the river each day. Each group had 4 members. Group 1 consisted of deer, monkey, hyena, and giraffe. Rabbit, pig, antelope, and hippopotamus were members of Group 2. Group 3 had fox, rat, duck, and lion as its members, while elephant, camel, tortoise, and mouse belonged to Group 4. Members of the last group, Group 5, were grasshopper, parrot, wolf, and viper. The task of drawing water from the river every day rotated smoothly among the groups with no problem. Every year, on the first day of January, the animals organized a special Thanksgiving festival, and on such an occasion, they prepared the most sumptuous meals for their dinner. They usually ate, sang, danced, and rejoiced together all night long. On one Thanksgiving day, it was the turn of Group 5 to go to the riverside to fetch water for the day's chores and preparation of special food for the occasion. At sunrise, grasshopper, parrot, wolf, and viper went to the river with their containers to draw some water. They decided to go back for more water at midday. When they got nearer to the river, they heard an unusual sound at the spot where they used to fetch water. They got startled and stood still for a while. The sound also stopped. The animals moved further into the river, and as they were dipping their containers into the river, the sound came back loudly. Suddenly, they saw a strange creature with 3 heads coming out of the river. The creature was spewing fire from its mouths, nostrils, and ears. It shouted, "Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha! My name is Wangawanga. I am the king of this river. You animals have been disturbing me for years. From today, I do not want you to fetch water or catch fish from this river. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha!" Wangawanga walked toward the animals. Grasshopper, parrot, wolf, and viper became afraid and ran away, leaving their containers in the river. They quickly ran back to the forest and narrated their encounter with the strange creature to the rest of the animals. Some of the animals did not believe their story, while some became afraid. Later, Group 1, comprising deer, monkey, hyena, and giraffe, was detailed to go to the river and find out the truth of the matter. Deer was holding a gun. Monkey was also clutching a big stick under his armpit, while hyena and giraffe were each holding a cutlass. They hurried to the bank of the river, but they did not see any strange creature. They only saw the containers left behind by Group 5 floating on the river. Monkey said, "There is no strange creature here. Grasshopper and his team members have deceived us." Giraffe also added, "They are liars and lazy. Let us fetch some water and go back to the camp." Hyena continued that, "Tomorrow, that group will have to come back and fetch water." Deer was the first to enter the river, and as he tried to get hold of one of the containers, he felt that something had gripped his right foot. He tried to lift his foot, but it got stuck in the riverbed. He struggled very hard and managed to free his foot from the grip. Suddenly, he saw some movements near where he was standing, so he jumped out of the river and ran to the bank. The way he ran scared the rest of his team. Before they could ask him what was happening, they saw a strange creature coming out of the river towards them. It had the same features as described by Group 5. It had 3 heads and was spewing fire from its mouths, nostrils, and ears. The animals quickly took to their heels and headed to the forest. They also left behind their weapons. When they reached the forest, the rest of the animals were eager to know what happened at the riverside. Deer, monkey, hyena, and giraffe, who were panting, could not talk immediately. After about 10 minutes, they gained Compassur and narrated what had happened at the river seeded to their colleagues. Even though some of the animals were afraid of the situation, they decided that rabbit, pig, antelope, and hippopotamus, who were members of Group 2, must also take their turn and go to the river for some water. They were asked to be cautious before trying to venture into the river. Led by Hippopotamus, Group 2 walked quietly to the river, and when they reached there, they did not see any of the containers and weapons left behind by Groups 5 and 1. The place was calm, and there was no indication that the strange creature was around. Initially, they were all afraid to go near the river, so they waited for a while. One after the other, they quickly entered the river and filled their containers with some water and ran back to the forest with no incident. However, because they were running, they lost some of the water in their containers on the way. Group 2 were met by the rest of the animals with joy and jubilation. The group informed their colleagues that they could not find any of the containers and weapons abandoned by Groups 5 and 1, respectively. Also, the strange creature was not seen. All the animals were happy that the strange creature had gone. However, they were disturbed about the disappearance of the containers and the weapons. They were not sure whether Wangawanga had collected them or someone else had done that. The animals continued with the preparation of their meals for the Thanksgiving. Since Group 2 could not bring enough water from the river, it was decided that Group 3 should take their turn for more water from the river. However, before they could set off, Mouse suggested that both Groups 3 and 4 must go for the water so that they could get enough water for the next day. His reason was that since they were having a festival that would travel deep into the night, it would be appropriate for all of them to take a rest the following day. Mouse's suggestion was accepted by the rest of the animals. Therefore, Groups 3 and 4 took their containers and headed to the river. However, Tortoise, who belonged to Group 4, was asked to stay behind and help with the preparation of the meals because he was fond of walking slowly. Group 3 members were Fox, Rat, Duck, and Lion, while Elephant, Camel, and Mouse were the other members of Group 4. On reaching the bank of the river, they stood there for a while to make sure that Wangawanga was not around. Lion roared and shouted, "Hey, Wangawanga, where are you? If you say you are strong, come out. I am ready for you." There was no response. Elephant also entered the river and splashed some water around with his trunk, while the rest of the animals made some noise just to make sure that the strange creature was in the river or not. They were all afraid of Wangawanga. After making sure that Wangawanga was not around, they all filled their containers with water and headed for the forest. While they were going, they sang that, "We have conquered Wangawanga. No more Wangawanga. We are free forever. We are not afraid of the strange creature." They were then in a single line with Lion in front and Elephant at the end. After walking about 150 meters from the river, Elephant felt that something was pulling his tail. So, he turned and saw the strange creature behind him spewing fire from its mouths, nostrils, and ears. Elephant shouted and threw away his water container. This attracted the attention of the other animals, and they also turned and saw that Wangawanga had held Elephant's tail and was spewing fire from its mouths, nostrils, and ears. Its appearance was very frightening indeed. Elephant struggled with the fearsome creature and managed to free himself from its grips, but part of his tail severed. The other animals also threw away their water containers and ran away from Wangawanga. Wangawanga also chased them and shouted, "You animals! Today I am going to kill all of you. You have been disturbing me a lot. If you say you are strong, do not run. Wait for me. Today we shall see who is who." All the animals managed to escape from Wangawanga. When the rest of the animals at the camp saw their colleagues running and shouting towards them, they also took to their heels and ran deep into the forest. Tortoise was the only one left behind at the camp because he could not run faster. Later, the animals realized that Wangawanga was nowhere near the camp, so they all returned. They quickly held a meeting so that they could plan how to handle the situation. After much deliberation, the animals could not decide on any solution. Suddenly, Tortoise said, "I am going to catch Wangawanga. I must stop it from harassing us. We cannot allow one creature to stop us from getting water from the river. The river is our only source of water." The rest of the animals started laughing at Tortoise. Some even called him a joker. Lion remarked that, "Even the stronger animals among us are afraid of this strange creature. How much more a weakling like you? Shut up and let us think of an appropriate strategy of dealing with Wangawanga." Tortoise was not perturbed and insisted that he was going to catch Wangawanga. He went to his room and took a small black stone and a long twine and put them in a sack. Tortoise bid his colleagues farewell and promised to catch Wangawanga, and added that, "We are going to have a great Thanksgiving today." Camel, who was Tortoise's best friend, tried to convince him to abandon the idea of going to catch Wangawanga. But Tortoise did not heed to Camel's advice and left to the riverside. When Tortoise reached the bank of the river, he saw Wangawanga sleeping with Elephant's tail in one of its hands. He went closer to Wangawanga, who was snoring, and woke it up. Wangawanga got startled and shouted, "Who are you?" Tortoise replied, "I am just a tortoise who does not fear any creature." Wangawanga laughed loudly. "Ha ha 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 ha. Do you want to die? As for you, this tiny creature, I will just swallow you." Tortoise also retorted, "I am not afraid of you, and I am going to catch you." What Tortoise said made Wangawanga angry, and it started spewing fire from its mouths, nostrils, and ears, and moved toward Tortoise. Tortoise also quickly removed the black stone from his sack and hit Wangawanga with it. Wangawanga fell to the ground and started moaning. Suddenly, the fire from its mouths, nostrils, and ears quenched. Wangawanga became weak and could not rise onto its feet. Tortoise again removed the twine from the sack and tied up Wangawanga. He took Elephant's tail from its hand and returned happily to the forest. When Tortoise arrived at the camp, his colleagues were still discussing how to deal with Wangawanga. Tortoise raised Elephant's tail and said, "I have conquered Wangawanga. Look at this." They all started to laugh and jostle Tortoise. Some of them said Wangawanga had left Elephant's tail at the bank of the river. That was why Tortoise was able to get hold of it. They thought that Tortoise was making a fool of them, but he pleaded with them to stop jostling him and that they should follow him to the river to see what had happened to Wangawanga. They still did not believe his story and continued to tease him. Tortoise was not worried at all. He pressed hard to convince them that he had captured the strange creature. Monkey, rabbit, camel, and parrot volunteered to accompany Tortoise to ascertain the truth of his claim. However, they warned him that if what he was claiming was not true, they would not deal kindly with him. From about 50 meters to the bank of the river, they saw Wangawanga groaning and rolling on the ground. They went closer to Wangawanga and found that it had been tied up with a twine. Monkey, rabbit, parrot, and camel became happy and carried Tortoise high and praised him for his bravery. They all rushed to the forest to break the good news. All the animals rejoiced and sang praises for Tortoise. Elephant carried Tortoise on his back, and together with the others, they all went to the riverside to see Wangawanga. When they arrived, they saw Wangawanga in a miserable situation, and they teased it. Some of the animals pulled its legs and hands. Later, they all returned with more water to the forest to continue with their preparation for the Thanksgiving. When everything was set for the great festival to begin, all the animals gathered in the courtyard for their special dinner. As a sign of togetherness, they all decided to eat from the same pot. Since they were going to eat with their hands, each of them had to wash their hands. The water to be used to wash their hands was in a container at about 10 meters from the eating place. All the animals went to the container to wash their hands, and they all made sure that their hands did not touch the ground on their way to the eating place. However, Tortoise could not lift his hands from the ground after washing them. Therefore, he had dirt on his palm. He tried several times, but he could not go to the eating place with clean hands. Meanwhile, the rest of the animals had started eating the food. Tortoise requested that they should give him his share so that he could eat separately, but they did not accept his request. They said since it was a special occasion, they must all eat from the same pot. Tortoise became disappointed that within a short period, the other animals had forgotten how he had saved them from Wangawanga. He was not happy for their ungratefulness. Tortoise went to his room and took his sack and the black stone and left for the riverside. When he reached there, he saw Wangawanga still tied up crying for help. When Wangawanga saw Tortoise, he pleaded with him to untie the twine. Wangawanga promised that it would do anything for Tortoise if he untied the twine. Wangawanga said, "Mr. Tortoise, you are the strongest among all the animals, and I want you to be my friend. Please release me, and I promise I am not going to harm you and your friends. I promise to do anything for you." Tortoise also said, "I do not trust you. You are going to attack us when I release you." Wangawanga replied, "Please, please, I promise. I am not going to attack you and the other animals anymore." Tortoise said, "Good. I am going to untie the twine, but I want you to do something for me." Wangawanga pleaded, "I am ready to do anything you wish. You just untie the twine, and your wish is my command." Tortoise untied the twine and narrated what the other animals had done to him. He then asked Wangawanga to accompany him to the forest where his colleagues were eating the special meals. Wangawanga was happy because it was hungry, and it knew that it would get some food to eat. Since Tortoise could not walk faster, he requested Wangawanga to carry him on its back so that they could reach the forest quickly, otherwise his friends would eat all the food. Wangawanga lifted Tortoise onto its back and ran as fast as it could. Within 5 minutes, they arrived at the camp. Immediately, the other animals saw Wangawanga. They took to their heels and ran helter-skelter deep into the forest. Tortoise was happy and laughed uncontrollably. He said to Wangawanga, "My friend, sit down and let us enjoy this sumptuous meal. Thank you for helping me to drive away these ungrateful friends." Wangawanga also replied that, "My friend Tortoise, I am also grateful to you for saving my life and bringing me here to get some food to eat." Tortoise added, "From today, you and I are going to live here and help each other. We have plenty of foodstuffs on the farm." Wangawanga happily said, "We have plenty of fish in the river which we can use to prepare our meals. We shall also get water from the river." Since then, the brave Tortoise and Wangawanga lived happily in the forest, while the other animals disappeared and never returned. They were ungrateful to Tortoise, even though he saved them from the strange creature, Wangawanga. End of story. Thank you for watching or listening. Stay tuned for more stories in the coming weeks. Please subscribe, share, follow, and like.